Hello, everyone, and I am looking today at Far Cry 5. I I love this game. I have played a few Far Cries, but this one is absolutely the best possible, and for very kind of unintentional, maybe funny reasons. But no, the gameplay, the game flow, the story, everything about this game is amazing. And Far Cry, initially it was about being stranded in outside of civilization, some remote part of the world, and you're basically captured by savages or these crazy people, and for the first time, they're doing that in America. And so they have this aspect where a bunch of guys essentially come together and they're part of a cult. And you essentially are thrown into this thing. You're like a rookie deputy and you're thrown into this event where you have to actually infiltrate this cult. And eventually they, figure out who you are, and they essentially are the ones that are kind of pulling the strings, and they've taken over the entire state of Montana apparently, and they believe the world is going to end, and they're basically all pretending for the preparing for the end of the world. And so in that aspect, essentially they are all waiting to essentially either commit suicide or set up a bomb. So everything is, or create shelters rather, from atomic destruction. And so everything in this game revolves around kind of cults in America and cult leaders. And so they say that the main guy is modeled after David Koresh of Waco, Texas, and so that's kind of the vibe they were going for. The other thing about this game that's really impressive is that the vocals, the music in this game is fantastic, which I've never experienced or expected in a Far Cry game. Usually it's the characters and the gunplay and the exploring and the achievements, which are always good. But even the music in this game is incredible. They went to a real, county kind of church and had them create these sort of salvation songs. So everything around cults and whatever, and kind of religious versions of Christianity that are more toxic in this sense, that essentially lend themselves to the idea that the world is ending and they all have to band together and come together against the government or whatever. And so it's really interesting that you have the opening, you're kind of saved by this one bunker guy, and you basically have the main guy, John, I believe, and then you have to take out his two brothers and sister from the Faith family that are all around the region. And so once you kind of get past the tutorial area, you have three main regions you go to, and you can choose which one to take on. There's one guy that's kind of in the mountains, another one that's kind of by the lakes and the rivers, and then there's another one that's kind of in the towns and the more kind of uh, you know not so desolate areas. So I mean, first of all, what's really impressive about this game is it looks beautiful. You're in the countryside. Like sometimes I felt like I was playing a Cabela's game, because you can go hunting, you can go fishing, you can do all these other things in the game. And I've heard people who have just spent thousands of hours in this game when the main campaign could take maybe 12 hours. I've heard of people who spent, well, maybe not thousands, but at least hundreds of hours just fishing, hunting, being immersed in nature, because it's a beautiful, beautiful map. And it's also not too big. Like, it's decently big, but not so big that it's overwhelming, let's say. There's also an upgrade system where you can upgrade, your weapons, things like that. You can also customize your appearance, which doesn't really do anything because it's a first-person game. Oh my god, the load screens are just fantastic and incredible and beautiful. Um, and from they have a choral main theme, but there's a lot of instrumental versions of that and other places. And so of course you have messed up villains for each one. So you have one character who says the power of yes, and so he'll get people to do things while saying yes. You have I think Faith, oh sorry, his name is John Seed, Jacob Seed. And so Faith is the one who has kind of like these narcotics that they use to brainwash people. And that's how they explain that they're getting all these cult members, is that they're not actually part of it. They're just brainwashed through substances. And then you have Jacob, who's out in the mountains and uses a brainwashing device using music to brainwash people, which plays into the ending, which is depending on your choices. And then finally, once you take out all three, you fight, the final guy, that's kind of it. But aside from that, you of course have escort missions, you have buddy missions, and as you do more activities and missions with your buddies, they upgrade. So you have one lady who owns like a cougar. You have one guy who is who like flies a helicopter, another guy who flies like a small airplane. You have another guy that is like a flamethrower guy. Obviously foot soldiers. The first ally you get is Boomer, which is like a little dog you get, who's very good at like retrieving stuff and spotting enemies. He's actually very useful even by the end of the game. Like the other allies, they'll like help you fight, but once you have fighting down, you just need like an ally to help spot stuff for you in the environment. What's also very interesting, there are collectibles in this game, obviously, and because the map is so huge, it's very hard to find them, but they actually have in the end game, and this isn't like real currency, but you can spend in-game currency to essentially buy these maps that just mark out where all the collectibles are. It's like very convenient. I mean, I understand Ubisoft games, they kind of just put a bunch of crap in the map for you to find, and they say, okay, have fun, have at it, just pad the time and the content. But honestly, it feels really good to be able to just see where things are. I wish we had that for the Assassin's Creed flags for anyone who actually tried to get all of those. What's also very refreshing is that when you're in the overworld, there's always a bunch of side objectives that before you can actually fight the final person of that area, you need to take out, you have to take out command posts, you have to take out kind of transport trucks, grain silos, stuff like that. And so all these side objectives, they will, give you points, but also aggro enemies to you. And honestly, by the end of the game, or near the end of the game, I was very kind of upset a little bit, because as you take over the compounds and as you take over and liberate the regions, you have more allies in the area who are in cars and patrolling and everything. And the weird kind of side effect is that by the end of the game, there are almost no hostile enemies, or at least there's not a lot of hostile enemies that are ever concentrated in one area. I mean, when you take out a compound, or even outside a compound, there'd be like, 2 jeeps and a truck, and then, like a whole band of guys, of like 10 to 20 guys. And now it's like 5 max on like the side of the road or something, and random spawns. So by the end of the game, when you have all these weapons and everything's decked out, there's really nothing to use it on, which is very kind of upsetting. Like I bought a new gun, and it's like, okay, cool, let's try this out, and it's like there's nothing left to actually do, which is it's a weird thing where I'm actually upset there's not more enemies in the game world to actually do combat with. It was very surprising that I felt that way, honestly, because I've never felt that way. It's like, okay, cool, I beat the thing and we're done. But no, I wanted to keep going. The other thing too is that you can definitely beat the game with a standard arsenal, but there's a lot of replayability placed on things like weapons and weapon attachments. So you can buy a pistol, but you can buy different skins for it, different scopes, different under flashlights, and all these things, and they all amount to a lot of content essentially. But it's all completely optional, and just I don't know, the flow of this game, from the objectives to all the side stuff that you come by, that's always a great thing to do. The flow of this game feels fantastic, and when you liberate an outpost, it gives you a little thing liberated with a little firework explosion. This is not just my favorite Far Cry game. This is one of my favorite games of all time, and I've actually beaten it twice. I beat it once when someone lent it to me on PS4, and then I bought it for Xbox, and I played it on Xbox, and I just played the hell out of it. Like it's such a good game, and the story is so good. I did not mind playing this game twice, and that's usually very unusual for me. in that, it's like usually, oh, okay, whatever, it was good, but now this is really really good. And what's also very surprising is the one after this one, Far Cry 6. I picked that up and I just didn't enjoy it. It just didn't have the same energy, the same vibe. It was just kind of like, whatever. The other thing I also like about this game is that you can totally cheat if you want to. You can use, the best characters with the choppers and the airplanes and the heavy explosives and all of that. But it kind of cheapens the experience. I mean, you can play that way, but it will just make everything just so easy. And you never get to use certain, like certain skills you unlock. Like, you can jump down and you can do 2 takedowns in a row and things like that. And if you never, you know, if you never essentially, how do I say, keep all the enemies alive or in one place, then you never actually get to use the powers you get, which is just so, it feels so, not short-sighted, but it feels so frustrating that you miss out on that experience. But yeah. Again, the story, the characters are great. Are they better than Voss? I mean, no one's going to replace Voss, right? But they come pretty close, I would say. It's just a very fun game, and with fantastic music, fantastic graphics, visuals, gunplay. Just all of it is really impressive. And there are some side objectives, like do some fishing minigame, which I didn't really care for. The other thing too I forgot to mention about it is that it's fully co-op, and there's nothing like driving a truck and finally seeing what your other character or player looks like, and you both driving around like hillbillies in the countryside. And that's the other thing I love too. Like, the main thing you use to distract if you throw something out of a car isn't a rock. You throw an empty beer can. It's just a redneck simulator at some point. I don't know. It's just a fantastic game. Like, it's literally a 9 out of 10 game, and I've never felt that way about a Far Cry game. So it's very, very, very strange for me to praise this game so much. But yeah, it's literally one of my favorite games of all time, and from the story and everything. I'm just gonna repeat myself at this point, so I think I'll cut it here. But yeah, Far Cry 5, unexpectedly super fantastic game. Can't help but recommend it. Lots and lots of fun. Great weapons. Yeah, and there's obviously like a microtransaction thing too, but you can completely ignore it, which is fine, which is great. And oh yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the ending. Just that I do like it at the end. They give you one choice to give yourself an intentionally bad ending, and if you do, it's kind of funny. But the actual normal canon ending to this game feels like a worse ending. It feels like a bad end, because what happens is, well, I don't want to spoil it too much, but basically, they win. Like, the bad guys basically kind of win in the end, and you're just left there like, yep. So that was all for nothing, basically, because they were right. And so that's the other thing too, the atmosphere surrounding this game. And I can't believe this, but they said that the guy who directed this game was kind of like an anti, you trying to make the cult the bad guys, right? Like, these fundamentalist Christians in America, they're just bad people. And even though you're fighting them, it kind of has the Hellgast effect, where it's like, wow, these guys are actually the most interesting, compelling people in the game. And that's kind of been, Far Cry shtick, is that the enemy is always, the psychopath is always, very convincing and, whatever. But he still wanted to make them seem like bad people. And I think it was very upset, because the entire tone of the game is that everyone agrees with the cult, because they win in the end. All the best songs are about, their struggle and their cause. And the whole game is kind of about them. And it's just so fascinating to me that this is the result that they did not intend. That, the people love this game for all the wrong reasons, because they love the bad guys. But who can blame us? Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. Love this game. Fantastic. Can't recommend it more. I'll see you later.